Hello there, everybody, and welcome to this day's stream. I'm KaneFan701, as always, yours truly, and I'm here to actually give a little thank you and congrats to one of the best rabid and one of the most incredible modern day Thomas Trainz users we've ever seen in both the Trainz community and in the Thomas fandom himself. Apparently, as you can tell by the title, it's Gresley Ng. I mean, NG, or whatever he wants to be called. He's also known as Gresley Ng, the British Railways fan, who loves everything about British Railways and about the British steam engines. And being a Britishman myself, I absolutely take this with a lot of pride. And I really would like to take this moment in time, and for this streaming, no matter how long it goes on for, to congratulate and give Gresley a massive thanks. Because, to be quite honestly, when I first heard about who he was and doing these fantastic 06 models that he's been doing, I am absolutely just flabbergasted. I was literally amazed with the incredible editing mesh talent that Gresley has. And I will say this because obviously he's just a very talented man and he's very passionate about it. And I have to say this because when I first came across him, I was completely unsure about what he was and what he could do and what his aim was. And when I looked about it, it says that he loves the British Railways styles, and of course he's a big LNER fan, and he loves other railway companies too. But all the models that I've been seeing lately were very related to the London North Eastern Railway and the British Railway circuit. And I have to say that he is just fantastic with what the characters he's been doing, but not only about engines in real life, that we see designs that were Gresley failures or prototypes or characters that could have what if fitted very, very nicely in the Railway series. But I've also seen something that he's really brought back, a little dose of what I feel that is right in the community. And he's up there with some of the best I've seen in recent times, since coming in the 2020s. Like the Thomas fandom, like I said before, was going to go into a massive reboot when we came out of the pandemic problems and all the other stuff that was going on when the toxicity of how bad the fandom was. There was going to be some new talent on the rise, and we were going to see a massive change. This, by far, was one of the biggest ones I was anticipating. But, I did say a lot of things would happen, and the 06 Trainz community of Thomas, from the 06 era, would make a massive comeback, and they have. They've come back strong. And I really have to say, Gresley Ng is one of the best ones. Actually, I will go on record to say he is actually the greatest. And I think he's led the way for a new generation that I feel like that will bring back the Thomas community in Trainz the way it was meant to be. And, he's so good at what he can do. And like I said before, he's made engines I didn't even know existed, or those that I thought could not be done. And when I look back on some of his videos, like the promos that he does, they're very, very good. And I like the way how he does it. Like he reenacts, some of the best accidents that happened in real life. He's even done like a lot of other things that he did that I thought weren't possible. And one of the things I do like is he does a lot of good reskins on some of the engines. Like I'll say this, like he took Spencer, the A4 locomotive from the Thomas fandom, and he did an amazing stash of, liveries for Spencer, kind of giving you the idea of what, not just what Mallard or Sir Nigel Gresley or Silverlink would have looked like in the Steam era, but shows how they would have been like over time during that period when Steam dominated the British scene. And it's fantastic, and it's very, very accurate. And that's another thing about Gresley. He's a very accurate, Trainz user, and he knows the history. He knows engines that were done, and even those that were not doomed to fail. And again, guys, like if you're just tuning in, this is quite, you never thought this would happen, but I just felt like this was the right time to do this, and I really hope that Gresley sees this. And if he's more than welcome to pop in here, he's more than welcome to. because honestly, he's just that good. He's, quite frankly, one of the best in the modern day time of this new rebooting of the Thomas Trainz fandom. And like I said, he's done phenomenal. Like, he won me over in a matter of days when I came across him, and I was curious about him. And, some of the modelings that he has will be perfect for not just for my Thomas alternate universing, but for everybody else who likes to tell the railway stories and, telling us about the reality of British railways and everything else. So he has something there that I feel like is ready to become a massive, even better sensation. And I really do believe that this is what he was meant for, and I love it. And I hope he continues to do more and more, because when I saw more of what he was doing, I saw like he did Spencer, which was a fantastic thing, of opening up what he would have looked like over the years. And then you had other engines that he did, from the British Railway circuit that were fantastic. Like, there's so many different versions that I can't quite keep up with it in terms of announcing, because some of them have bigger name designs. But the one thing I will remember, what really got me into becoming a massive fan of Gresley Ng series, I think you guys might know. It was because of the LNER Gresley Thompson A1 Pacifics. Now you'll be thinking, why is that? Well, as we all know, in reality, the Thompson A1 of Great Northern and the rest of his Pacific 6242 Pacifics, or whatever they were, in reality, they weren't very good. They had a very, very long lad, ugly design of an elongated Thompson front end with Welsh Hart's valve gear, and they did not look anything better than what Gresley would have done when he did his A1 Pacifics and A3 Pacifics, like with the Flying Scotsman and just to name a few others. And a lot of people always took the mickey in thinking that when he took Great Northern and rebuilt it to destroy and tarnish Gresley's legacy, that wasn't really the case. Because what I saw was a genius remake of what Gresley Ng did. Because what he'd done, he's actually done a model of Great Northern, which I feel like is one of the best he ever did. Like, we finally got to see not just Flying Scotsman, but finally the first of the Gresley class, the prototype himself, Great Northern, finally in a Thomas form, if he were to appear to the Railway series. And I saw this, and I wasted no time in getting it in to see how it would perform. And boy, was I given a special treat when I saw it. I'm pretty sure everybody else who have had the same thing too when you got it too. But it also came with Great Northern's rebuild when he first came out of the works in 1946. And I was literally spellbound to see what he looks like in color. And at first, he did look like he had a very ugly looking appearance. But what Gresley Ng did is that he actually made Great Northern look more smarter, more powerful looking, and of an absolute thoroughbred on wheels that I just love driving on the game. Because he's made Great Northern what he looked like. We had the original livery, which looks very good. Then what made him more impressive looking is the fact that he'd given him the smoke deflectors, because obviously that improved Great Northern's look. And I have to agree with this. And if you do all the history and backup, you may realize that despite Great Northern may look like the same engine, but in fact, and I learned this from Flying Scott himself, is that actually the rebuilt Great Northern is not the same Great Northern that entered the works for rebuilding and the first of the Gresley class all the way back from 1922. Yes, it's a bit confusing, but if you do your back up and have a look, you'll see what it means. And it actually gave me a full 180-degree turn on Edward Thompson's design, despite the fact that there's still those who don't like him and think that he was the villain. But as I see, it's actually a cool looking locomotive. And this gave me an opportunity of thinking, what would Gordon think if he had seen a rebuilt Great Northern? And funny enough, this is actually one of 3 models I have of him. Gresley Ng actually did Great Northern in the Pacific pack, which he actually did, the Thompson pack, and Great Northern in British Railways green, Brunswick green livery was there. That's how I first found out about it. And I will admit I was a little hesitant in wanting to get the model. But having seen what he looked like in the color and seeing what he did with the other engines, because he did the Thomson A1 Stroke 2 and Stroke 3, and they too looked very impressive. The only little criticism I had would have been the face packing, but that's his decision and I will not judge him. It's really, really clever of how he's done it. And he even made Edward Thompson's model in the Gresley Thompson A2 Stroke 3 look, which looks fantastic. And I do have to admit, the Gresley A2 Stroke 3 class, which was one of the originals that Thompson built from the ground up, was one of the best designs he ever produced. And like I said before, it's very good. And I actually had an idea of planning a storytelling of when Gordon would have found out about these locos. And despite the fact, about who Thompson was, Edward Thompson, he would have dismissed them, not considering them part of the family. And then eventually over time, this is the story idea I've got, is when he finally discovers the truth about what happened to Great Northern. And then he kind of would bury the hatchet. It's kind of a traditional linear heritage story that I have in mind. Now, it will take time to read, and it's going to be brilliant because Gresley Ng or Gresley the British Railways, do whatever you want to call him by, he's got so many names. I think he's opened up a new chapter, and I would feel like we've got an opportunity to capitalize and show just how much he has to offer. And just recently, he and I have formed a very slow growing friendship, and I respect what he does, man. Even if he sees what I've made in my Thomas fandom series, which he loves fabbing on my DA and everything, it's brilliant. And I feel like we've developed a lot of respect for each other, and I feel like he's got so much to give that who knows what he'll do in the future. And I look forward to seeing what he will bring to the table. Who knows? He might make more of the Thompson classes, because if he can do the others, then surely he could do the rest. And I feel like he has got, all the skills to do it, because obviously he's so passionate and he dedicates every ounce of his, passion into these models he makes. And I'm not trying to say he's the best of the best, but in this modern day time, he's up there. He's opened up a new chapter for the Thomas fandom in the Trainz community, nonetheless. And again, I'd like to take this time to thank him, and it will be absolutely amazing thing to see what he's got when he does more of it in the future. So these are exciting times. My apologies for muting up there. I just had a little background interference. But like I said before, this is going to be fantastic. And again, if he does come up here, I feel like it will be an honor, to tell, because he's one of the best, like I said. Now, I know there are others out there who can do very good with other modeling, but this is about the 2006 Thomas modeling, what really kickstarted the Trainz Thomas mania for a lot of us. And to this day. And I feel like there's so much that we can absolutely take advantage of. And who knows what will happen. But I do feel like that Gresley has laid the groundwork, the foundation of where we need to go. And I think there's so much that I think we can pull off. And I think it's going to be, very exciting about when we get into the next year, because I really am excited to see what he can do. And, if he can make all these stuff, I mean, I can only imagine what he could do with other engines, like if he can try and make other stuff in the Thomas Railway series that we never saw come to life. Another thing is, though, just now, about a couple of hours ago, he actually did a lovely little video vid on my 311 film, because he actually watched the movie last week and said it's one of the most fascinating films he's ever watched. And because I gave him a lot of permission and I trust him, and I say that again, I trusted him, and he pulled off a wonderful small little video, and it's great. And again, even doing some of the American stuff that he's just done here, it just goes to show how talented this guy is and how much he's willing to make tributes and, to showcase other people's talents like myself. And I think that was a wonderful thing he did. That's the reason why I'm doing this stream, to give some part of my time to congratulate him. And like I said before, he is just that good. One of the best in the modern day Trainz Thomas fandom I've ever come across, and I consider it a blessing that he and I crossed paths, and he's just fantastic. Like I said, I was a bit unsure of who he was, and when I saw what he had done, he is just, like I said, it was just a big surprise and one thing to another, and I feel like there's a potential of more things to do, and for us in the Thomas fandom to keep our passion going. So I feel like he's really opened up Pandora's box and opened up an exciting new chapter for a lot of us. So that's my thoughts on this as a whole. So if any of you guys want to come in and want to join in with me, because obviously my voice is going a little bit stale here, I'll let you guys pop in and you can have your opinions about it, because obviously some of you guys who know who he is, and well, look, I have to say it's just something I really wanted to share for a long while. So if any of you guys want to pop in, I have sent the link in the chat box, and for those of you who haven't spoken with me before, you're more than welcome to pop in. So again, I can only hold up to 6 people or up to 5, so just keep that in mind, okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay, let's see who else is on here right now. Okay, then. Let's see who's out here now. Names it. Oh, Masquerade's here. Railway Lash Up. Nope. Hey, the Matrix. For the first time. Hi, Railway Lash Up. Nice to see you. Long
nice
time.
Nice to see you too. How you been?
Absolutely on a roll, man. Got Astro here. I only got room for 2. Only got room for 2 more, and the stream's full.
Long time no see, Kane. How you doing?
Fine. I mean, I would be on the Discord right now, but like I said, I've had a lot of issues going in. But I'm just taking my time to congratulate, Gresley Ng, and I feel like he's just really good. Like, one of the best.
Too.
And
I already saw it.
Yeah.
And I must have to say, it's really fantastic that he used to make 311 for you. Now,
he asked me. He asked me.
To be my childhood.
Well, like I said before, he asked me about it, and I never thought this day would happen. That's when I realized this guy is something. He understands my filming. He understands where I come from, and I feel like, I was very protective of the film because I don't know what the others would have thought. But I said I trusted him, and I gave him full special permission. And what do you know? He did much of his filming, and he put my bits at the very end. And I saw what he's done, almost doing as a lead scene. That was good because when the engine passes by, you see the burn remains of the owner's car that was set ablaze, and then he does like a flashback at the end. That was really cool. So I feel like he unknowingly, I'll say that again, I think he unknowingly put the final piece of the puzzle of how Y311 crosses the bridge and gets the inner piece that she needs in the movie. And I thought that was a nice fitting touch. So I feel like he's uncovered more than what me and the team I was with didn't realize. So again, Gresley Ng, if you see this, man, props to you for pulling it off, man. So again, that was really good. I just saw the movie last week. It's in the description box.
Okay. Who's making the noise?
Matrix here, game. Can you stop the humming? Because it's a bit of an issue there. Okay, then. Jasmine Hokua. We've got somebody else on here who's got the anime collection on the bottom. I'll just put you in. Hold on a second. I'll be right there. Just got to deal with something, all right? So don't worry. I'll be right there.
I'm looking forward to making a great success on the Missouri Valley Railroad series on my channel.
Which
Well, if
one?
it works out, that's going to be great.
Indeed. I mean, like I said, the series is going to be really like an inspiration idea from Daniel Wells' channel, though.
Oh, Daniel Wells. I remember him. Still trying to get back with him, but it's been ages since we last spoke. I mean, unless that was somebody else, I remember. There's so many.
Because let's just say a friend of mine by the name Speedy Gavin, who made the FNAF security breach videos,
Wait,
he actually got an
Astro, hold on for a second. You said something about Spaghetti Gambit. Wait, is this guy like a fan of Spaghetti Bolognese and a Gambit fan from the X-Men? What's all that about?
not exactly, but he only picked that name for his channel though, for some reason. He
Oh,
only just
sounds
made some
weird.
FNAF security breach videos.
I see.
And as I was about to say, he actually got in touch with the NPRRE2.
Also, Glenn, what's your OC look like in trains?
I think he's AFK. Just give him some time when he comes back.
What?
And it's just gone really quiet, really quick.
Sorry, I was there, mate. I was just making sure Mum and Dad are okay. Just
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. We
that's why I
always
let
know
you.
how
That's
that
why I let you,
feels
Astro,
to
do the
check on our
talking there while I
parents.
was. That's why I said, Astro, you continue the talking while I wasn't there.
Yeah,
oh,
well,
hey, Glenn.
we always know how that feels whenever we needed to check on our parents, you know.
That's fine. Nothing major. It's just natural. I do that tenderly at times. But in any cases, very last. So what's been going on your end? Any updates?
I just, I just surpassed 4,000 subscribers.
Well, congrats, man.
Congrats.
Thanks. Second,
Hey, Glenn, here's my OC if you want to add me into your own trains. My OC. That's a Raven Bishop.
Well, for me, I just reached 560 subscribers.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so I'm still halfway to try to reach 600.
You'll get there. Hey, Glenn. Did you hear about the 614?
Yes, I've been hearing a lot lately because it's funny. It's funny we bring up about the American steam trains because lately, since the 2020s, I know, despite that horrible beginning to the second decade of the new millennium, it's funny how American steam has basically been making comeback after comeback. Like
I know,
13,
right?
Indeed, it's very surprising.
yeah, like the rarest. Like I feel like that there's a new chapter opening in this whole community and the steam in America. Like think about it. It all started with one of the rarest to ever return, which I feel like is the new chapter. It was 1309 who came back. You know, that big Malay locomotive who won me over in almost immediately in 2022. And then we hear the return of the Mohawk, which is absolutely taking the
Oh
world by storm.
yeah, I heard about that too. The New
Yeah,
York
I know.
Central 3001.
And I thought to myself, I thought to myself as a joke, oh my god, the real Nathan from San Juan's coming back, even though he's actually bigger than the one that we see in reality, because he's a different Mohawk
Yeah,
type
I mean,
compared to the other one. And then
yeah,
you have,
because I believe,
and then you have the other
I think I
engines
may have to
coming.
guess that, was it Nathan? Yeah, I believe so. That he's probably one of the L1s of the
He's an
Mohawks.
old model. He's a very old model you can actually find on the DLC on the trains. But if you want to try and get him as he is now, you'll have to upgrade to modern day trains and ask the San Juan guys because they have come back and ask if you can get the reskinned version of him, which looks even better than the older one, which is basically a rusty Mohawk.
Yeah, well, the only Mohawks that we have that had survived is the L2D and an L3A.
And I'm not sure which one Nathan is because he looks like a bigger variation of the class. But either way, it's like I've said before. Then you have that come in, and then lo and behold, out of the blue, which I feel like was a very anticipated return, and I'm glad it's happening. 614, the Greenbrier herself is coming back. One of the biggest Northerns, and actually, I think he was the last Northerner ever built. Northern
Yeah.
class
I
in
do
the
kind of
US
wish that
because they were
Norfolk
post-war
Southern.
engines, and I feel like we might see the Greenbrier Express because it's still carrying the Greenbrier livery that we never got to see, and we might maybe in our time we'll get to see it
Yeah,
happen. And
that's
then
true.
and then if you think that's historical enough, it's basically going to be steaming along with NW 611. And from what I got quickly mistaken on this, I didn't think that these two ever met, not in Steam before, but it turned out
Yeah,
that
that's true. They never
Really,
actually
so
met during that time.
but they actually have. It turns out that 614 made a visit when 611 was at the National Transportation Museum in Virginia. So they have met
That's
when they
yeah, that's true.
they
That is
did
true.
they did meet once, but that was when they were not in Steam. This will be the first time together in Steam. I feel like that this will be a first. I mean, it'll be the second meeting, but technically the first in Steam together. So this is going to be quite the big money shot moment in history for a lot of us Northern fans. Because I say Northern because what can you say? The 484 Northern is probably the best American engine design area. Like, there's so many of them that have survived. So
Yeah.
I love it, and I feel like it's going to be great, and I cannot wait. I mean, there's going to be 611 fans, there's going to be 614 fans who want to gather up. There might be a bit of a rivalry going on, but as far as I'm concerned,
if they literally
one of the
double
best.
head, I'm going to go bananas.
That's what's going to happen. They might steam together. Either they might either do it double hangly, or they could have parallel runs together, which is even double the money shot for me. I mean, that would be brilliant. Have them together side by side. He's just as good than having them together on the same train. But
Yeah,
still,
well, here's the thing. I have been doing some documentaries about each and every companies that previously owned locomotives. So technically, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad is owned by CSX. You know that,
well,
right?
Yeah.
yes, and we all know CXX Transportation is a hit and miss company compared to Conrail and other railroads who aren't doing very good. And don't get me started on Amtrak, okay? I mean, they're good and all everything what they've had, but yeah, they're really limiting some of the big steam routes. Like, how come we've not seen 44, 49, and some of the other engines who run on Amtrak rails? You know what I'm saying? Like, the limitation. And
Well,
it
I
goes to
did
show.
hear back in the olden days that Amtrak tried to attempt to do the mail and express service on their trains, but they were facing some problems as a result because the freight railroads were not happy about this competition. That they wanted to have to be to carrying mail in freight revenue rather than having it on passenger trains, like it
I
used to be back in the olden days.
Well, everybody was doing it back then as well. Even as Brits did the post mail train and everything else, and there's the fast freight and fast mail servicing, and that's what New York Central were best known for doing as well. I mean, that's what they
Yeah,
did back in that time period.
but it's very
Oh, and by the
disappointing that
way,
the United States Postal Service had to cancel the mail by rail contract when railroads were facing some financial problems when they canceled the mail contract.
I heard not official, but I heard 614 once it's fully like yeah, once the 614 is like fully rebuilt and all that stuff. There's a rumor that it might run the Shenandoah Valley.
Um, I'm not so sure. I used to
A friend of
remember
mine
seeing the
told me.
videos when 614 also used to pull the Chessie Safety Express, I believe.
That's what I was told from a friend of mine.
Because I really like the way how they painted its tender. No, I don't think they did paint the tender. They only probably painted the water tender in full yellow, and same goes for the other rest of the rail cars.
A locomotive I love to see. I'm pretty sure I said this countless times, but a locomotive I love to see come back to life is the 1218.
Yeah, it's
But
very kind of disappointing that the 1218 would never get a third chance to operate.
well, I'm pretty sure it might down the line. I know it's going to take a long ass time if they do decide to bring it back, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I still kind of wish that some of those museums would purchase the Norfolk and Western M2s to an operation because one of them was already restored. 3 were like badly rusted, and only 2 had missing tenders.
Oh,
Yeah, because the Virginia Museum of Transportation have already received one M2 number 1151, which is an M2C, and basically it's been sitting out on a unprotected spot that was being left to rotten outside. But I do hope there is a way they could try to save up some money to cosmetically restore the engine, so that way it'll be like what it used to be back in the olden days.
Well, it would be quite cool if that actually does happen. You know, I mean, a cosmetic restoration is not that bad as long as it shows what the engines would have looked like in service. That's one thing. But who knows what will happen? I mean, some engines got cosmetically restored and then later on would actually restore to working order. So, I mean, I know for a fact that. Hold on a second. I've just remembered about another engine who's coming back soon. It's going to
which
be
one?
that's ready. It's the prototype of the Reading class Northern's
Oh,
2100 herself.
2100. Oh,
Oh yeah, that's
about
right.
about that. About that. It might
Yes,
run next spring. According to someone who's very close to Reading and Northern, it might run next spring.
that's grand. So it's
Yeah,
going to
I
be
kind of wish that most of the museums would try to purchase the other 3 old M2 classes of the Norfolk and Western steam engines to restore them. Because I just found out that there's a picture of the 2 badly rusted M2s left in the woods with no tenders.
Hmm.
The other one, I'm not sure what's the number that's behind the other one, but I do know the front one was number 1118, but I can't find out what number is the other one behind it.
what 1118? Who's that?
A Norfolk and Western 480 M2.
Hang on a second. That's the same one that Strasbourg 745 is, right?
No, 475 is just an ordinary first M class of locomotives. The M2s are actually more bigger and more powerful than the other previous M classes, like the M1s and the Ms.
I've heard about the M1s, but I didn't know about this other one. So I've heard of them, but I've never actually seen them.
Well, today we only had 2 of the regular M classes of locomotives. One was already in operation, that that is 475, and its sister engine number 433, located in Abington, Virginia.
Nice. Just ignore the notifications there, mate.
Yeah.
Speaking of us, as well, there's also another engine I feel like that should come back, and I know it's Norfolk and Western anyway. But I got a feeling if the Melee 2882,
What?
You mean
Which
you mean
one?
like 2156?
it's not
1256.
1218. I'm talking about the smaller version, the one who's sat behind 1218. The other one. Do you know the one that was built before 1218's class came into existence? The Y6.
Oh, I think you were referring to about the Y3s, correct?
That's the ones who had the same equal power as a 2666.
Oh
for the
yeah,
600.
I know what
And
you're talking about. It was number 2050.
Yeah, 2050 is the one I was referring to. What if she actually makes a comeback and
Will be
could
nice.
return?
Yeah.
Imagine
Have you seen the video that 4014 actually helped out a stall freight train that was actually stuck?
For real?
I remember. Yeah, that's happened a few times.
Yeah, because I remember like it really brought up the good old videos of how 844 helped out a stall freight train on the mountains too.
That was not long ago, and of course, Big Boy demonstrated its beastly power by doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I was very
And,
impressed to know that Steam still has great power.
well, of course it does. American Steam and British Steam, Australian Steam, anywhere. Steam just, well, we all know the Steam era technically ended, but that was the first generation. We're in a new generation, and I just feel like since Tornado came back, was built when we started in my opinion, a new Steam era, the second generation, as I call it. And I feel like the Americans have decided to come along with us, and I feel like they've catched up rapidly. They brought some of the legends back, like I said, I feel like they started it with 1309, the rarest of ever to come back, being a Malays and whatever. And then you've got 2200, the prototype, finally coming back after so long. And then you have the Mohawk, which is everyone's going nuts about because obviously it's New York Central. And then you have, basically, I think there was another engine that's coming back too as well. I'm not sure, but there's just I feel, but there's just so many coming back.
Oh yeah, because I also heard that I believe 3985, the Challenger, is going to make a comeback as well as 5511.
Yes, they did.
I heard about that.
I knew she wasn't going to retire. The thing is, Union Pacific just can't run 3 engines that sized on the UP thing anyway, because obviously,
I'm so surprised that they actually got a chance to bring back 5511.
I also heard UP 9001 was making a comeback too.
The thing is, because
the X9000 class. I remember.
Oh yes, that's one. That is one I feel like definitely deserves to come back on UP rails because they were the original.
Yeah, but there is still a problem because the wheels are in one group. There's like a problem with curves, actually.
Then the thing is, then this is how you tackle it: find them locations where there's not that many curves, and it won't be too stressful for them. That's the way you counter it. The thing is as well, like I said before, there's just so many, and I think UP can't run all 3 engines like 844 when you have, the Big Boy and you got 844 together and 985 together. You can't run all 3 of them because if you just think about it, the doubles the maintenance costs. They're too expensive to run all in one go, even though it would be a once in a lifetime.
That's what I was thinking about because what I've heard from High Iron, I was listening to this video from High Iron that the X9000 class were like, a headache for operating in backshop crews because of the 3rd cylinders.
And yes, I know who High Iron is. It's actually the same guy who voiced Nathan in Sound 1 himself, and he's bloody awesome. And of course, you have other engines that come. Like I said before, they're so expensive to run. That's why 3985 was put on the sideline so Big Boy and 844 can run. And then whoever's going to come back is obviously going to have to be put on the sideline. I feel like Big Boy is going to take that sideline and rest off. I mean, the bigger that monster, the biggest of the biggest can't always run periodically because it's going to be even more costlier. So I feel like, either Big Boy or 844 might be put on the sideline to take a long break while 3985 gets back in the system. That's the way I feel like UP runs their business.
Indeed.
At least because you got your 3 top railway superstars. And,
exactly. I mean, I'm very surprised that they actually came to an agreement to try to restore 5511 to be in the Steam Heritage fleet.
Well, I'm glad they will, because if they bring back another challenger who's got, I think, has the Elephant Trophiers or whoever it is, I think it's
3977. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the other challenger who's got elephant ears, and I think he was painted in the Greyhound colors, which would be quite nice. I'm not so sure.
To be honest, I really like the color, the way they put it on the Challenger.
If that happened, guys, now just hear me out. I know we've got off the topic about Gresley Ng because it's the thing, but this is what happens on my streams, so you better watch out for that. In any case, besides all that, if I know this would be unbelievable, But if they ever did bring back that other Challenger back and run it with 3985, then you got basically two Challengers, two siblings together. I don't think we've never seen that before in our time period.
Nope.
Yeah, that's true. I would
Boys,
very much like to see that if it
I
really
need to go
does
back to
happen.
work. Glenn, I'll talk to you on Discord later. Cheers, mate.
That's all right,
okay.
Railway. Hey, Railway Mash, it's fine. It's been great having you on board. You know,
Thanks.
honestly, always a pleasure to have you on. Come again back next time whenever you feel like it.
All right. I'll see you boys later.
See ya.
Not only that, but I really do feel that there's a really good shift in the Trainz community. I mean, the American steaming always knows what to do. I mean, they throw one surprise after another, and I know where we're heading for it. But like I said before, this was beyond what I thought would happen, and I knew 614 would return. But I didn't think at this point. I thought it would be another 2 to 5 or maybe 6 more years before we would hear anything. Obviously, because of how the railroad, community has changed over the last few years, and how trains are getting to run on only certain areas, and because of the limitation. But I do feel like it's possible, and I think whatever locomotive 614 is going to have, the big green boy herself, I feel like we're going to be in for something really special. And who knows where it will go next. I mean, by all I know for a fact that we're in for an exciting journey when it happens.
Indeed. I'm very much looking forward to see the brand new T1 too. You can't forget about that.
Oh yes, eventually when that locomotive happens in 2030, I know. Yes, Pensie's definitely going to put the icing on the cake when that happens, and I said it before, and I'll say this again until it actually happens. I will allow them to dare to try and beat Mallard's record. If they can do it, then that's grand. Thankfully, it'll be the longest record we've had, and even if it does get broken, the Americans will not be able to say, "Oh, we've got the fastest American steam engine in the world." But Mallard will still be able to say the fastest steam engine in Britain, which to me means more than the entire world. Like if you're the fastest of your entire nation of the steam era, that to me still means something. So the record isn't going to be technically broken, despite if it does, I'll all just say, "Oh, the record was broke. Another engine claims the record." Not technically, because Mallard was.
I was also doing some research about the New York Central 999 because I also found out that it turns out the engine didn't really actually beat the record though, because the engine was originally built with no speedometer.
I believe it did happen. I still believe that the 999 New York engine did do its own record, like before that happened. But who knows? It's the same. I feel like that engine story, in my opinion, is almost like the American variation of City of Truro when that locomotive in 1904 hit the 100-mile-an-hour barrier, and then eventually it was officially, official like a few more decades later on when it did actually happen, even though it was never officially recorded.
It always turns out that railroad enthusiasts always checked on every locomotive specs and designs to make sure if they actually did break the record or not.
Well, of course, because like you said, speedometers didn't exist. You have to use like a stopwatch or something else to recording, that was the only way to do it.
Exactly. And not to mention you had to look for mileposts.
And mileposts, they were there for a reason. Not to mention, I know for a lot of people who keep thinking where there's drivers who claim this and that, sometimes I do believe in them. Sometimes I'm kind of like really to believe it. But there's also that one engine in particular who I feel like could have beaten Mallard's record, and I feel like it may have done. I have a funny, strange, eerie feeling that it may have done. I'm talking about the Penzie S1600, the big engine.
Yeah,
I
really kind of like I always like the Penzie's S2 steam turbine that I like, because they had several models of them.
that locomotive gave the Penzi a lot of publicity, and I feel like that to me was one of the strongest ever. And I feel like that could have had potential for preservation, and it would. And I don't to preserve, but don't run in the modern day because I don't know if turbine steam would actually find a place in the modern day because it does look a little bizarre because that's just as expensive than coal and electric put together. If you get my
Yeah.
drift. But then again,
I mean, even if it fails in real life, it's still like the real engine always has a success in a model version of them.
well, of course, it's the same thing with the S6100. Lane and Train Slayer, whatever it was called, that made models of it, kept the legends alive. Hell, even in the Trains community. And speaking of like other engines, I feel like the other engines I feel like that could have beaten record after record. Now I know this is going to be a big one. I can only imagine if this ever happens, if they can do this. Now I would like to see this actually happen if they can make this in reality, build a new engine from the ground up. What if they actually build if they build one of the Milwaukee 442 Atlantic Streamliners, bring one of them
Oh
back.
yeah, I
A new
love those engines from the Milwaukee Road. They are fascinating.
Despite I'm a fan of Engine 261, obviously because it was a Northern who slowly won me over in terms of Northern look. Okay, but I just feel like the Streamliner 882 Atlantics, which were the most powerful Atlantics ever built and streamlined and the most beautiful looking, to me would have rivaled the Southern Pacific's Daylight Train. I was not a big fan of. I will say I wasn't quite a big fan of the 6-car streamlining. If it added more cars, like a 10 extra or whatever the case, that would have looked luxurious enough. But 6 cars, yeah, but still fitted out nicely. If you wanted to travel
Yeah,
in front.
well, here's the thing, because usually back in the when engines 440s and 442s, they were not actually very that powerful enough to pull those heavy cars because they were a bit underpowered.
Well, they were lightweighted as well and streamlined, but like I said before, and I know there's so many great designers. Raym Loewy, who built his S1 600, which I thought was good. I mean,
Yeah, not to mention he did the streamline of the K4 for the Broadway Limited.
Yes, he did. Which, ironically enough, the Broadway Limited K4s Pacific class were actually, if you look closely at the wheel configuration, was actually what Nigel Gresley did in order to build his designs on Flying Scotsman and the other A classes. So you got the Penzi to thank that. If it weren't for them, the classes wouldn't have existed. So again, you got to think. Actually, I did not realize at the time. I thought we invented the Pacific class, not the Americans. I guess, and I only knew that about a decade ago when I was reading a random Flying Scotsman book that came out.
Yeah. Have you also heard that one of the K4s is actually being assembled right now? Number 1361.
Yeah, the best K4. Yeah, the one who knows the Queen of
the Queen of Altoona.
Yeah, that she's actually a CSW class I'm trying to make in my CSW son, but instead I'm going for the K4 Bronzy Streamliner instead. I don't know why, as a character. But either way, I'm just glad they're finally building one of the Pacifics back. And I feel like that will have a place in history. But also, same time...
Not to mention, I also found, one survived NNW Pacific, and it's an E2A.
Interesting.
Its number was 578, the last of the NNW Pacific.
Very nice. The only thing I will say is, like I said, going back to the Milwaukee 422 or whatever it was, the thing is, I do feel like those locomotives could have been saved, just even one alone. And I do feel like that will have potential to live in the modern day. It looks futuristic enough. And I do believe in the stories that they came so close in actually trying to make the world speed record before Mallard got the title. And if one of them could have broke the record, I definitely would be very convinced that one of them could have done it. And I feel like if it's possible to build a new one in the future, I definitely feel like that engine alone could do it. And I know I wasn't a big fan of the Milwaukee Road, but I do have to admit the Hiawatha Express that they pulled was definitely probably one of their finest they've ever done.
Yeah, but I also found out that the Burlington Northern Railroad find the Milwaukee Road as their rival back in the olden days.
Yes, they did. They were. Yeah, there was like 3 railroads that were neck and neck with that. There was the Quincy and Burlington Northern, and then there was Milwaukee, and then there was another railroad that was deadlocked with them during the Great Depression series. I can't remember which one it was, but there were 3 of them fighting for the same thing. Then you got Pennsy and you got New York Central face to face, who had the same kind of goal, and they had similar styles. Like I said before, these were like almost the US variations of the London Northeastern. You got LMS and Great Western and the Southern. And I feel like these were like the bigger American counterpart versions, although I know it never happened.
Yeah.
But to be honest,
like the Penn Central merger was actually a disaster for both the Pennsy and the New York Central.
It was a good ditch effort. You got to get them props. I mean, it's a classic good name, Penn. The Penn Central does sound like a cool name, but it was one of the worst mergers ever. But you got to give them both credit for putting their rivalry aside and selling their differences and trying to last in order to work together, which would have been quite an intriguing thing. Like, I always loved the what ifs if history had gone differently. The biggest one,
not to mention that they have been suffering lots of problems, like derailed cars, tracks sinking into the ground, and all that stuff. Not to mention the produce that they have, send like potatoes and stuff like that, let to rot if they go into the wrong spot.
Well, there's one thing I will say that should have happened if they were smart enough. And imagine if this had been the case. If Southern Pacific and Santa Fe had merged, imagine how that would have turned out for all the engines. That would have been really something.
Yeah, because I did hear from that, like, if the merger actually did happen, then the UP and the BN would have like a new competitor up in their hands.
Yeah, 2 competitors merged into one big rival. But then again, I always feel like that the UP was Southern Pacific's best rival, in my opinion, because you got the Daylights and the 844. That's what I mean. But I always felt there was like no bad blood between them, because obviously, because look at how popular 44, 49, 844 keep helling out with each other. The 2, I know 611's an icon of 484 in her own way. But those 2 at the time, I felt like were the Northern icons. They've always been together more often than anybody have ever have. But now I feel like there's a good chance, and I hope this happens one day in the future. I'm not the only one. But if 44, 49, and 611 were to ever meet, that would just blow
that
the
would have been
capacity out of the
so
water.
awesome. I mean, the 2 trains from the east and the west.
Like I said before, in my opinion, the 2 best Northerns. I know UP 844 is her own icon, the only engine that never retired and whatnot and everything else. But just think about it. If you think about it, if you put those 2 together, if you got 44, 49, 611, 844, you got your Northern trio right there, which are very popular with rail fans. But then again, 261's popular in her own way as well. So you got your 4th competitor. But then again, 614 could definitely step in there as a potential.
Yeah. Oh, I hate to ask this, but have you seen that one video that 844 suffered a boiler tube failure?
Yes, it did. And it still did what it had to do. Like I said, that engine just doesn't seem to quit and has no retirement in it, no matter what. And it still hasn't done it yet. And I'm thinking, when is it ever going to, drop that fire? If it takes a long break, definitely it does, but don't retire. I can only imagine if the outcome would it be. But then again, that engine's not getting any younger. And I thought that tragic accident that happened many years ago when 844 accidentally had an accident, I thought that was going to be it for its career.
Oh yeah, about that time when 844 hit a person that was too close to the tracks.
The engine was never to be at fault, and it was so upsetting, man. I remember it. I thought that would be the end of its career. Or the end of train enthusiasm.
Yeah. I hate to ask this, but have you seen one video that was published all the way from the UK that the Flying Scotsman actually bumped the cars too hard?
Yes, I remember there was that incident when it happened. It's not the first time either. There's been one a few weeks back. We had another one where the crew were oversized and they should have had only just up to 2 to 3, but it had more on board, and that was very recklessness. And that was sometime during this year or last year or whatever it was. But yeah, Flying Scotsman's had a few bumps in the road, but still okay and in good safe hands. But I do tend to
Yeah.
worry. And the thing is, I've been worried about the whole train enthusiasm thing with rail fans who break the rules just to get way too close, all because for a bloody
Yeah,
fight, or to take a
I know
photo.
what you mean there because
It
I
has to be in
mean,
that
getting
back.
too close to the tracks is way too dangerous if the train is really approaching fast. I mean, it
Yeah,
takes only about like a mile or a mile and a half to stop because of those
I mean,
heavy cars.
well, I can hear a train coming in by phone. All I have to do is just listen to the wheel, and you spot the whistle plume, and that's it. And you got to do is just back up. The fact is, like I said before, those train enthusiasts. I'm sorry, I'm coming off topic, but it's basically those rail fans are asking for death, almost as they want to commit rail suicide. And I hate saying that, but that's what it feels like. They'll go to any
Yeah,
length.
you know what? That reminds me. You heard that CPKC have already sent their steam locomotive to Mexico, right?
That was a long time. That was several months back, and don't get me started on that one. It was a good. I mean, it was a hell of a good adventure. A Canadian engine, like, look, that's another thing. The Canadian railroading is so underrated, and I felt like this was a great opportunity, and they did. They've accomplished something at least. They've gone all the way from
Yeah,
north, that long journey, so that's something they've done. So you gotta give them props. But after
yeah.
what
I mean,
happened,
not to mention
yeah.
about that because usually, when I saw videos from History in the Dark, made a documentary video about that.
God,
It's like,
Astro Boy, History in the Dark, dude. That guy, oh man, how can I put it? I love his content. Bit of a funny weirdo, but he knows how to make it entertaining. I love his content. Honestly,
yeah, especially when he did with some videos of Perlman. You can't forget about that.
yeah. And there's that. He even did that one bit with uh, 1225 and 1309. He says about the Christmas thing. He says like, "Hey, I'm Christmas. We can share." And like, it's just those little, it's just those little teeny bits that he does that just makes it so hilarious.
Yeah, it does. And I especially like the way how he made Perlman said, "I want that steam engine."
Yeah. And then when he mentioned about Jefferson, I was like, "Oh no, please, no, please, don't do that or whatever." And then yeah, this I know it's a bit weird at first when I came across. I was like, "Okay, he's narrating. He's acting like a bit of a. He sounds like he's being jerky there." But when he goes back to telling his history and when he knows when it has serious enough, he's got a good balance. So I'm used to his kind of rail history in the dark humor, if it will be.
Yeah, because not only that, not only does he just do trains, but he also does about, I believe, ships. Like he actually did a Titanic video back
He
then.
did. I chose not to watch that one because he blamed Cam Smith for that one. So please don't get me started on that. And he's also done about the wars. He's done about airplanes. He's even done ones I felt like were hilarious about the Mother Nature when he does about the tornadoes and the hurricanes. And he even still recalls them by thematic styles, which I thought was a little weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think that was hilarious in its own way. Now, don't get me started on that either, but it's really good. I like what he's trying to do. And at the same time, he has a good way of balancing his entertainment. But besides, we're getting off topic. Again, now I'm going to go rewind a little bit. Now, when it comes to like train modeling, I've got no idea what will happen when Gresley Ng does his own thing. I can only imagine in the Thomas community he's going to make some more models, but I don't know what he'll do.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
for a fact he'll do plenty of brilliant engines from the British Railways. That is definitely cool, but I'm not sure what he'll do next. And
Yeah.
if he has other intentions, he could possibly, and I say this, if he's going to do more like as he did my 311 thing as a tribute, what would happen if he ends up taking some of the Americans and finding the '06 models or whatever he's going to do and make them have something. I'm not sure what he'll do, but I do have high hopes, if not a lot of enthusiasm, that he's going to do a lot more than what we expect him to do. But like I said, he really opened up Pandora's box for me and helped me learn a few things about the Thompson class, which were at first bad-looking designs, but they proved to be so useful in the Trainz video game. And then I learned about from Flying Scott and everything else that maybe the Thompson class may at first appear to be bad and ugly and very ungainly, but they just had their own limitations. But it really did a few 180-degree turns, and I felt like this was definitely something very, very good.
Yeah. Oh, which by the way, have you heard about Rapido trains, right?
I have.
I just heard that about like a couple of months ago that Rapido Trains UK had already released their own United States Army Transportation Corps S-160 locomotives.
Indeed.
Which I was very surprised to know that they actually finally released the models after so long. Since, well, Roco actually did it way before them.
That's right. Yes, it did.
I do hope that maybe someday Daniel Wells would probably try to save up some money to try to get the DC silent version of the S-160 locomotives.
Well, who knows what will happen? That will be fun. I will be one of the first few to admit that will be a brilliant thing.
Yeah. I mean, for once, I wanted to try to save up some money to buy the Roco S-160 to be part of the Missouri Valley Railroad fleet. Because what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try to remove the buffers and a chain coupler to replace it with a simple American-style knuckle coupler to fit on American railroads. Since we all know that the S-160s were built in America when they were exported to Britain.
That's right. That's true. They did. And they were. Yeah, that is definitely true.
And it's a good thing that we have a few survivors of them all over the world.
In all places, not just Britain, but in all parts of the globe.
Indeed. It's a good thing that we only have 4 survivors in the U.S., especially in, one is actually currently being restored in Alaska, I believe. And that number was 557.
Okay, indeed it was. 157. That rings a bell. Okay, well.
They actually just finished the tender, I believe. So I think they already started finishing up assembling the boiler, because I'm not exactly sure if I remember that update, but I might need to double check. Which I'm looking forward to definitely see the engine running again, because we definitely needed to have those S-160s running in America too.
That's true as well. Sorry, man. I've got somebody here called. Sorry, lads. I don't mean to jump off.
It's okay. It's okay. We do that all the time. We do that all the time, dude. So there's nothing to worry about that. I especially like the one of the S-160s that was restored because it never got a chance from the Cassianic Railroad, which was bought by its new home. It was actually restored in its USATC green color on the engine.
Oh, are you talking about Southern? Are you talking about Southern 4501?
No. I'm talking about the S-160 that was restored by its new home when it was originally owned by the Cassianic Railroad.
Oh, that one. Oh, speaking of another engine, you just reminded me, Astro. There was actually another engine who is scheduled to come back as well on the Southern program. It's 630's other sister, 722. She's also scheduled to come back.
Really?
Yeah, that's the other engine I just remembered. Yeah, and she'll come back in the, from in the Southern green livery that she had prior to that too, as well.
Interesting. Which honestly, I find the Southern Railway green color really fits on the engines.
Oh, it does. I mean, 630. Well, I don't think we've ever seen 630 in that livery though, because it's always been in the proverbial black scheme. But 723 and I mean 722 and 630 are basically twin sisters. But it's nice to know that they're still hanging around. But I will be happy to know that 722 will return because that's been out of action for a long, long time since roughly 1985, as I recalled. And sorry guys, but I've got somebody here in the chat box in here who just reversed how to be an absolute ridiculous pervy son of a bitch right here. Henry the green bloke here, he's in the chat. He's pissing me off here. Look, Henry's green engine. I saw you on your thing. You look absolutely horrible. You're so stupid looking. You're out of shape, man. You're
Seriously, what in the world am I just reading in the chat?
No, I saw what he looked like on the camera. I didn't put him in because he looks absolutely horrible looking and he was out of shape. A little bit big for his size, obviously. Listen, the fact is he's stupid. That he's pissing me off. He's trying to get my attention. Look, Henry Green Sputtery, just listen. I know you like Sparta from 300, but dude, just get out of my server and pardon my French, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Gresley Ng, if you see this, don't worry about this.
Henry, get out of here. You're not allowed to be here.
Whatever your name is, man, piss off and get lost. I don't want you on his server. I don't want your ugly mug on.
Yeah, piss off, Henry.
Yeah, we do not want to have any more trouble here.
Yeah?
There we go.
You're causing us trouble here. So get out of here, please.
I've done it now. I've banned him out. That's twice now I've had to ban him out.
Oh, you know what? If it's something more interesting, if some museums actually manage to bring several N&W steam locomotives with the Southern Railway steam engines. Imagine the two of them would be together, since both of the companies created the Norfolk Southern Railroad.
Well, they are Norfolk Southern, so you're bound to put them together.
Yeah, Norfolk Southern Railways.
Norfolk Southern, NS for short.
Yeah.
Oh.
I also heard that they have several more, like half of the trackage rights more than CSX ever owned when the Conrail actually split up by the two of them.
Well, if you look at what happened with, look at what's happened with Reading. I mean, look at where 2102 and 456, however, whatever the case, they've got more Reading track than they've ever had to, and hence, they've got some of their original railroading back where they would have, because they were basically, a coal hauling railroad, and they also have a lot of other stuff because they have really good spots up in the Blue Ridge, near the Blue Ridge Mountains, and not too far from N&W.
It's very surprising to know how N&W got so much money by hauling coal each day and night. It really built up lots of money for the company.
Same thing with the CNO. Even they had coal drags very similar to N&W, except the Norfolk and Western held on to American steam longer than the others did. Hence why they went out in 1960 in May of that year. Like I said, they were out of all of us, they were the first to go. They made 1960. When I say we, I mean we, the British. We went out of steam service in 1968, so we managed to hold on another 8 more years, and then Australia went out until roughly about the 70s.
I see.
From what I gathered.
Yeah, that really surprised me when I was looking at some videos of the Norfolk and Western Railroad. I'm surprised that they actually managed to keep the steam locomotives running into the 1960s.
Well, that was the time where everybody was, progressing. The
dieselized, like most of the other railroads and all the other countries were dieselized.
Yeah, but some couldn't do a dieselizing just yet because of how expensive they would have been at the time. That's why steam lasted for a bit more longer. But since then, the preservation thing just dominated and took off, and why we continue to keep saving and building back engines from that past that shaped our future, what we have today. And now we've seen newer engines, in a way, making a comeback. And they always kept saying, steam era died in the 60s and everything else. But it's still here. We've still got the preservation era. But I feel like there's a new generation. Like I know it sounds a bit silly, but I feel like despite we have electric and all diesel and gas powering and everything else that we've got, and solar power and whatnot, but there is a place where I feel like Steam still fits, and it just gets stronger and stronger. And I feel like we're living in a second generation of the Steam age. Not quite as it was back then, but it does give us a dose of what the past was when we translate like the magic. But even better with what we're seeing today, to following the modern day regulations to keep Steam going, to where they can run, where they can't run on. I mean, look at what like one of the big examples was 765, and when she had her third overhaul from 2001 to 2006, she was brought back to her original specification, had her third career, and the overhaul that she had complied with Norfolk Southern and all the other policies that were running on American railroading at the time, and they managed to go anywhere. So it went on all over the other systems. So there's your big answer there. Like, and that's what most engines have to do to follow and comply with modern day standards.
Yeah, not to mention, I found out that the 765 was actually traveling on the chassis system's trackage rights to be as the C&O 2765.
Yes, that was way back in 1993 when she was masquerading as as a Kanawha. Yes, and if you won't believe it, but K&L even made a cool model of that locomotive in their early days of railroading. So you actually have the real 765 and 765 herself in disguise as a fallen Kanawha, which was very clever.
Yeah, because we all know that the C&O also have some of the classes like the even though they call them Kanawhas, that we still prefer them to be as Berkshires.
Look, it doesn't really matter what number it is, like the Greenbriers and Northern, or 67 as a J Northern. They're still the same design of the wheel specification. It's just different names. Like you have the Potomacs.
Yeah, I mean, even though the New York Central called their 484s Niagaras, it doesn't really matter what we call them. They're still the same. Like have the same wheel arrangement as any other engines.
It's just a nickname, and depending on which part of the US you're living in, I guess. But in any cases, like I said before, the one engine I do also feel like would also come back, and I'm going to go back to Santa Fe just for a teeny little bit. There's one engine I feel deserves to come back, and I feel like, sure, even though they've brought back two engines, like they brought back two Northerns at the moment, I feel like they should bring back the biggest one, and that's basically the Santa Fe Queen herself.
Oh yeah,
the Anamando Queen herself. I
know what you mean there. And not to mention, I went to the to this museum at the Abilene and Smoky Valley Railroad in Kansas. They actually have one of the ATSF Pacific steam locomotive there in operation there.
Yes, they do.
And believe me, and they always maintain it for several years to make sure it's in good working order for tourist operations. It's a very unique locomotive, but sadly I didn't actually get a chance to see it out from the shops because I only saw the little diesel switcher only doing a tourist operation when I was there.
Oh, that's natural. I mean, not every engine can run by steam. At least have diesels for backup and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, even though, we all know that the first generation diesels were actually introduced, but when they were going to phase out, they have suffered, the same fate as their, steam engines back in the day.
Oh, definitely.
Because, we all know that most American railroads no longer needed boosters anymore because the diesel engines that we know are third generation power because they are stronger and more powerful than their predecessors. They no longer needed to have boosters anymore.
Well, if you wanted to have someone with a booster, look no further than the best Fresno ever herself, 1522.
Yeah. Because I actually got one Bachmann model that is an F7A unit that has the NS paint. I don't exactly have a booster yet, but I'm going to try to save up little money to try to get a Bachmann unpainted F7B for use like to make it real, like it has like more horsepower to combine with each of them have 1,500 horsepower.
I see.
Oh, and not only that, I also found out that Lionel actually published the breakdown B unit back in like probably a few years ago when they announced that. Basically, what that means is that a breakdown B unit starts to like if it has low oil pressure, like it's dropping, and it would basically start to overheat when the temperature rises. And when there's no more oil pressure in the B unit, then it would start to overheat badly and would create lots of smoke. So there are 4 different ways if you wanted to, like, to stop the B unit from overheating. Like, if you're on idle mode, then you can actually quickly shut off the B unit and alert the dispatcher that they're shutting down the B unit.
Indeed.
The other
And
one
so-
is that when they're not that close to the yards to get to the shops to repair the B unit, they would just notify the dispatcher saying that the B unit has dropped its oil, and they would have to stop on the main line to let the dispatcher had their block to be flagged, so that way other trains don't hit it from behind or in front of it.
In any cases, Siren, I'm going to bring in Jessima Hokuri right now, who's got the anime character by the bottom here. So if I kept you waiting, I'm going to pop you in now for the first time and see how this goes, okay? A little nervous, but it's always a pleasure to have somebody new on. So here we go. Greetings, Jamisa. Welcome aboard.
Hello.
Got you in now, as I promised I would.
Hello there.
Yep, welcome aboard.
Let's see. There is also another way. Like, if you were really close to the yard where they have a shop, they would, have the B unit being, because the crew needed to nurse the B unit without having to throttle up to notch 8. Because if they do, then the B unit would start to overheat very quickly. Because if that ever happens, then it would shut down.
Oh, definitely.
And if they actually did make it to the shops to get there when they arrive at the next yard, they would stop there on a siding, turn off the B unit, and have the maintenance crew repair the B unit.
That's true. That would definitely be a true fact. Anyways.
Yeah, which I did find that the B units are very useful for helping the first generation diesels if they're not powerful enough to pull those heavy cars.
Wait, why B units are useful for A units on the EMD F7s and F3s?
Well, because usually back in the olden days when first generation diesels were first introduced, they were not actually that very powerful since they were only limited to have 1,500 horsepower in each of the units.
I see. Thank you for a point.
Ever since the time when the in the 1960s, when the second generation diesel powers was introduced, they were more powerful than the old predecessors. That they do not require any B units, but most of them are still produced, but not nearly as much as their predecessors were. Instead of hundreds or thousands built, they were often more than 50.
Well, when it comes to a lot of other engines that are strong and powerful, like I said, then when it comes to all that raw powering, when you go back to the 484 class, 611 in her class were the strongest Northerns ever, having about 80,000 pounds of tractive effort. Well, I feel like the other Northerns can rival that in terms of I think 44, 49 is one of the closer to being on equal footing. But then when you look at but then again, when you look at 4501, arguably the most famous Mikado ever built, light Mikado actually, that developed about 45,000 or whatever it was, which was not bad for a little light Mikado.
Yeah,
It's quite strong.
indeed. I mean, I kind of find out that that the Class 1 railroad still runs the. Let's just say they actually use the F7s or the passenger variants of the FP7s. They actually still roster them for only on business trains. Like Norfolk Southern has, like they lash up the ABBA locomotives with on the business train, and CPKC still roster their units in their own business train, running the classic KCS ABA lash up diesel engines.
In any case, as we progress onwards, like I said before, I've got a good feeling. Like I said, I think that Gresley NJ is going to surprise us with more of what he's going to do. I know we've kind of dazzled up a bit there, but that's what this whole stream thing is about as well. Hopefully, when he sees this, it's going to be fantastic. Like, I think he's
Indeed.
got so much to give, so much to offer, and I do feel like at some point he's really going to give us more what we saw in British Railway terms. But I also wonder other engines from the Thomas Railway series he might bring out too. Like he's done multiple variations. I mean, like there's also another guy now I'm going to briefly mention as a cameo who I thought like was a mirror image of him. That was Max the Man, or whatever his name is, and he did like a version of Gordon in his Great Northern look in the same style, as what Great Northern would have looked like, and Gordon was taking the role, and he had
I
him both in
mean,
his.
Great North. I like the style of Gordon's original shape.
Gordon's original would have looked like what the other A1s would have looked like at the time.
Mm.
Yeah, that is true.
But this guy did a heck of a good job. He did it in both LNER Gina livery, right, and in green, and then he did them in blue to match the same color. Basically, what he did was this isn't Gresley NJ. This is like Max the Man, where his name is on Twitter, whatever you want to call him. He's also
known as Max the modeling dude.
That's it. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he's to me. I'm saying this as a cameo reference. Shout out to him. He's also second to Gresley NJ. I think them two are the best guys I feel like in the community who are just out of this world, man. Who are just brilliant. I love their talent, and I don't know what they would think of me personally. I don't know what Max would think of me, but I do respect his talent. I think he's got something to give, and I feel like he's done wonders, man. And I think he's onto something. Just like with Gresley, I feel like they both have something to offer for us, and he did Gordon in this great form that he's done. Henry's definitely one. He's even done him in his Atlantic form how he should have been made, which again he threw in some good surprises. I'll tell you that much. He's even done one with he's even done one of Edward in his actual form, but like in the 06 form, and it looks pretty damn good. Despite I've got multiple versions of Edward in multi versions, but this one was the frosting on the cake, you could say, how it was supposed to be. And then you have other engines. He's even done one with Percy, which looks very, I would say, quite accurate. But I can only imagine if he does more with Toby, if he's going to do one with Bill and Ben, what will he do with the other Fleeter engines if he ever builds other engines?
Boko. I wonder if he does Boko with.
Yeah, that's what I was. That was what I was been meaning to ask, because back in the old seasons of Thomas and Friends, most of those characters never actually made a comeback to the CGI era.
We don't need the CGI era. We just had them in the Railway series. Like, what would they look like for real?
Yeah, that's the Railway series.
That's what Max the modeling dude's been doing. I mean, we've seen what Thomas did.
I wonder if he does Boko with yellow face.
Yeah, that would look a bit weird, but it has to happen. And you got we know we got Diesel and Doug to go with, but like I said before, he's done like these little features that made them stand out nice now. We know Thomas has been it's basically the same 06, just with different liveries. I couldn't tell what was different about it, so I didn't get that one at all. Because I got better versions. Edward definitely got me. He's the same guy who's made basically Max is the same guy who basically created the engines of 8. And I'm very surprised that hardly anybody, and now I do say that, hardly anybody I've seen have really put use to them. And I feel like there's a potential. If anybody out there, I know this could be, I feel like I'm foreshadowing this, but if anybody out there in the community is smart enough, just imagine. Now, I know there's some greats out there who could do it for a laugh, But if Thomas and the Engines of Eight would have some other cross promotion together,
See you
that would be
tomorrow,
fun.
Kane. See you tomorrow.
Oh, you're leaving already?
That's all right.
Yep.
He's been on. Well, he's been on for about an hour and nearly 25 minutes. So,
Okay.
well, I got to wrap it up very soon anyway because I have to go out very later on because I've got to help my dad. It's Thursday night. I've got
By
to
the
help
way,
him.
I'm actually at the a female standard tender at the studios 2002 person, you know,
Oh,
and the comments in the chat, in the live
okay.
chat.
In any case, Joshua, it's been nice having you on board. I didn't mean to keep you waiting that long, but it's just that there was a lot of hot topics been going on.
Yeah, it's
and I wasn't
fine.
sure.
By the way, here I'll show you my channel in the private chat. If you want to subscribe, I'll give you some time to subscribe. Actually,
Yeah, I was just wondering where you are. I was trying to find out who the heck. But then again, you never know. But like I said before, I'm sorry if you heard a little bit there because that guy named him in the Green Engine, then somebody else. It was an absolutely ridiculous looking young little kid who.
yeah,
Yeah. I've always heard about that dude many times whenever I always joined streams back then. I've been hearing that for a lot of times whenever I joined Kane's stream.
I don't know if you saw him, guys, but he was down there in the bottom of the chat in the car. He looked very ridiculous, like bloated oversized, little kid look, and he looked like he was completely stripped out or whatever, and it was scary. That's why I didn't put him in, and I knew for a fact he was attention seeking.
Yeah, I mean, attention seeking is really like a bad thing, you know. Doing that would really cause, like, you know, get you into trouble.
I've got you. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, did you see the episode 2 when Thomas, Percy, Todd, and Vixie actually swapped bodies?
Pardon?
Have you seen episode 2 from Daniel Wells' channel that that both Thomas, Percy, Todd, and Vixie actually swap bodies?
Oh, Jesus. I wasn't a big fan of that sort of thing. Don't get me started on this. Oh, boy. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I can
It's
see.
a good thing that Dustin actually managed to find the way of how they could, like, he could switch them back.
Oh, definitely. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So, just here, I've noticed you've got a very intriguing channel and you've done some good remakes. And somehow I'm getting a very familiar deja vu that some of these vids I've seen look very familiar. Like there's a little Western Gordon. I remember seeing Gordon Takes a Dip, the 09 remake, and then there's the latter of Double Trouble, and then you've got the Scrapyard. I'm thinking, wow. I'm thinking, where have I seen? I'm thinking to myself, where have I seen them before elsewhere? Because I'm getting quite a bit of a deja vu here.
Yeah.
And then there's the original.
I'm gonna have to go, dude. I'm sorry that I cannot be here any longer because I got some stuff to do that I need to catch up with work.
It's fine. I'm just having a look here, and I'm just thinking, wow, there's some particular stuff here I may have missed out on or may not have realized before. So this is really good.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here. So I'll
Very
see you guys
cool.
later.
Okie
Bye,
dokie then.
Astro.
Bye-bye.
I'm sorry.
So I may have to get going at some point myself, so I'll wrap it up too. But it's good to have you on as well, Josina, anyways. And again,
Yeah, you can call me Jones or Jonesina, whatever you want.
It's always a pleasure to meet somebody who's a big fan of Thomas and Friends, but also has a bit of a thing for anime as well, just like me.
Yeah.
In any case, welcome on board. It's been good having you in. And who knows where I'll go next.
I've been a fan of you since moments ago. I mean, years ago. When I was young, I watched her videos. I watched Timothy, the Untold Tale of Timothy when I was young.
I'm glad you saw it then, didn't you?
Yeah, yep. I just saw also the horror on the Kildane branch. I mean, Kirakwan branch, my mistake. If I said any branch lights. And also I saw The Curse of Clinchfield 311.
Yeah, That's the one that Gresley Ng just did a remake at the end for me, in case you didn't
Yeah.
notice. He watched it last week and he loves it.
You know,
Everybody
Yeah.
else has been going crazy. It's been 10 years now. Everyone's just been gravitating back to me. They
Yeah.
talk about it positively. There's just been, it's been a tremendous emotional rebound for it. And it's just, it's just really regained so well. So I feel like at least I've left myself a good positivity on the community. I'm very surprised that everybody kept coming back saying, "Oh, I remember watching this. Oh, this is still awesome. Great nostalgia. This guy's amazing. What he can do."
yeah.
I didn't expect it to be that 10 years later on. I'm like, wow, at least I've left something there on the fandom. Although one guy in particular said that this changed the Thomas fandom forever. If that wasn't you'd be crazy to think that would be my intention 10 years ago. That wasn't really the case. It was a dark era time. Everybody liked making ghost stories and this whole remake that was happening. So I capitalized, and everybody looks back and they think that my version's the better recap style because I gave Timothy a backstory and why he had the zero, why was he silver, this or that. So I did everything I could to make mine stand out differently, at least trying to get some backgrounding. And it's just been popular since, except I've been rebooting him ever since now to make him more of a good guy rather than a bad guy. I see you doing a new face pat there. I get it. Nice. Well, besides all that, now I've got to have to end the streaming on anyway. Be gone for quite a while. Hopefully, Grizzly and Jay, the British Red guy, can see this, and hopefully, we'll see what happens. What he says afterwards. So, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming in.
See you soon.
See you soon,
Glenn,
mate.
or should I say KFan701?
Go by any name, man. I answer to both. Either ways, it's been fantastic. So I'll catch you guys later on. For those of you who've been watching, hope you've enjoyed it as well. It's GameFan701, and I'll tune in again another time. Stay safe, everybody.